I can't get on it.
I'm not,
Oh, they're just getting on.
they're just getting it started.
And
It's the YouTube.
Becky used to pull everything like that. But whenever she was everything, she
Jennifer, you're muted.
She didn't do that. He's been such a liar today. He didn't sleep. I put him down, cried, really, fussed for 10 minutes.
That should be already off. I already turned it off. The sheet unmuted.
It's gonna sound a little bit great. There's a little bit of delay, but it's not.
Thank you, Kate. Jennifer, are we ready? Anybody's out there? Hello, everybody. Jennifer, did you mute my other, did you stop the camera on my white screen? Right. Jennifer, I'm keeping the broad camera muted, and I'm going to be doing this. Jennifer's coming.
Say hi, Carrie.
Jennifer's coming.
Oh, you know what? Actually, do your silver right after. You want to do some awesome?
Did you call me?
I'm gonna give you some awesome.
Okay. The camera what? The camera that shows the whole thing that's not working?
Well, because you're on the phone right now.
Yes.
we're not muted.
Did you see some awesome there?
Now,
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're just getting the technology done. Give us one more second as we have two cameras.
I'm still out on camera.
what-
Start my video, I guess.
you're not videoing anything.
I thought that's what it's called when you.
Oh,
Rabbi
that's-
House has
oh,
stopped
turn
it.
off.
Rabbi House is, can't see me.
Right.
Jennifer,
Hey, Mimi, are you a cracker?
All right. We're getting everything started. Happy holidays, everybody. We're just double checking that it is working. And Jennifer, is it working?
No, mine.
This is my baby, by the way.
can't
He is
see
the
you. He's got me blocked out.
The host stopped it.
Okay.
Okay.
Jennifer, you got me unvideoed.
All the people who are on Zoom, we're not having you say anything right now. You're going to be doing your part, but that's the only time we'll have you unmuted. So you'll be muted the whole time.
Okay, but our audio.
So don't, just stay quiet, and when I call you guys, we'll have you guys read. Jennifer, I just can't hear you. That's the only person who. All right, Jennifer, you ready to go? Give us 1 second.
Yes, we're ready to go.
All right. Hag Sameach, everybody. Hope you are seeing us from 2 angles, from the wide angle and from the personal angle. We're going to try doing both. Worked last night for the family. I don't think you all know as many embarrassing stories about me, so this will be a lot better, I think. So again, welcome, Hag Sameach. We know it's been a difficult time for all of us. We're all learning new technology. We're all trying to find ways to make sure that we come together even when we're not together physically.
And we apologize for any technical difficulties from our children.
And we're sorry for our technical difficulties from our children, as my wife has just told me. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to do the entire Seder. The actual meal we're going to skip, so we'll have the motzi, and then we'll just go on to the second half as we find the afikomen. I want everyone to, again, to turn to anybody in your room and wish them a Chag Sameach. Perfect. All right, so let us go ahead and begin. I hope everyone got the Haggadah. We sent it out via the internet, so you should have a link to it from the email. It's a wonderful Haggadah made by the Boston community and given to us free of charge to allow us to download it and do things to it. So we really appreciate that. And it is a wonderful Haggadah. We're going to do all the major things in the service, obviously. We will not be skipping any pages because I've already skipped the pages when I redid the editing for this. So we're all good to go on that. So to begin, I know we've seen a lot of things online, but I found a very cute thing that somebody sent me, and I'm going to read it from Dr. Seuss himself, who is not Jewish, unfortunately. What is Dr. Seuss's view of this year's Seder? I do not want you in my house. I do not want you or your spouse. I do not wish to eat with you at Seder 1 or Seder 2. Don't get me wrong, I think you're nice, but the CDC gave out this advice. You must avoid 1 plague more and shoo Elijah from your door. And next year's Seder, we will tell how we were all saved by Purell. So happy holidays from Dr. Seuss, who is not Jewish, but we really want to claim him anyway. So I'm going to invite everyone now to go and take out their Haggadah. And we're going to go through it step by step as we enjoy our time together. I'm going to give everybody a second to do that. And if everybody has their Haggadah, you'll see it says the wandering is over Haggadah, Seder for everyone, which has been edited by me for this. So we began, of course, by saying the order. And usually would sing it, but because I am here alone, there will be a minimal amount of singing. You're welcome. Kiddush, Kadesh, ritual hand washing, urchatz, dipping of green vegetables, karpas, breaking the middle matzah, yachatz, telling the story of Passover, magid, ritual hand washing, rachsa, the blessing over the meal, motzi matzah, dipping the bitter herb in sweet charoset maror, eating a sandwich korach, eating the meal shulchan orech, finding the afikomen safun, saying grace berech, singing songs of praise, Hallel, and ending Nirtzach. And so with that, we have begun the official Seder. We're going to start by lighting the candles, which is not in the prayer book, the Haggadah itself, but my wife is going to light them. As she says the prayer, and I'll say it for her since you may not be able to hear her. I'll let her light it first. And my son is very excited because he loves fire.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Amen.
Is it Yom Tov? Can you say Yom Tov?
And we say Yom Tov because it's not Shabbat. We're not going to say Shechianu, which is on this page, because you don't say Shechianu on the second night. You just say it on the first night. And so we hope everyone had a Seder the first night, but if you didn't, we're so thrilled to be with you tonight. I'm now going to invite you to take your glass and fill it with, of course, wine or grape juice. It can be kosher for Passover wine. It may not need to be. That's going to be up to you. But it's a wonderful way to begin. Traditionally, we invite other people to do it for us so that we are actually being served. So I was going to ask my daughter and my son to pour my wine, but they've already ruined 2 suits, so we're not doing that again. So everyone get their wine or grape juice out, and we say together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen, l'chaim. Now, before we continue, this is a synagogue Seder in more ways than just one. The serving dishes are from Peggy Harris and Ellen Bick. The horseradish comes from Louis Schneider. The tzimmus is coming from Brian Graves. The loquat inspiration for our loquat harosits comes from Jessica Levos and Carrie Rosen. The table linens come from Diane Kerr, Mrs. Friedman, and Sue Ruby. The matzo balls come from Lucille Smith. The pots and pans from Toli Hollenberg. The wine, of course, from Bubba. The pecans for the horoset came from Michael Portman. And the Seder plate, of course, was a wedding gift. So all of this is from the community, and my wife was so good about setting it up that way. So thank you to everybody for helping us prepare. This is the first time I've actually ever used the Seder plate, and we're so thrilled with it. So what we're going to do now is go to Urchatz, and that, of course, is the breaking of the matzah. I'm sorry, the Urchatz, the washing of the hands. We're ceremoniously washing our hands right now. Usually we don't say a prayer for this. However, this year, because of all the things we're doing, is we're going to invite somebody to lead us in a prayer of hand washing on page 2, even though we're not doing it. So I'm going to invite Carrie now, if you're there, to read the prayer. This is a prayer created for this time of year because of the virus, for washing our hands. Terry, please go ahead.
There you are.
As I take up my hands to wash them and reassure my heart, I pray for healing and wholeness for the whole world. I remember that every life is unique and infinite value, from those living on the most remote part of the globe to those in our cities, to our neighbors and family members. Let me use my hands for good to help bring love and compassion to others. Let us lift up our hearts and hands to the eternal.
And thank you, Terry, for reading so beautifully. Again, we know it's a difficult time for all of us. I'm sorry that we're not able to spend time with our friends and family together in person, but I'm happy we're able, because of modern technology, to come together. And as we know, we're all learning to wash our hands a lot more than we ever did before for 20 seconds. And so that's why we added that prayer in there. So thank you, Carrie, for reading it. So now that we've ceremoniously washed our hands and we have ceremoniously said a prayer, we're now going to continue on as you go to the bottom of the page. And it's very hard to concentrate, as you can imagine, because my son is right next to me and he is super adorable, as you can imagine. So we're going to go to Karpas, which is, of course, the spring greenery. So I invite everyone to take some of your Karpas right here, right here, right here. And we go ahead and we are going to take it. And we're going to say the prayer together. You can find it on the page. So dip it in your salt water. Of course, that represents the tears that our ancestors. It also represents the tears of my children that are going to be coming from their eyes as we get closer and closer to bedtime. So we will have our own Has tears, which will be kind of interesting. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adamah. We praise you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruits of the earth. Amen. And you can have as many as you want.
Eat it, ready?
Absolutely, positively delicious. Probably my favorite part.
Good girl, you did it. Good girl.
All right, so let's continue on.
That's her first mitzvah.
Oh, my daughter just did it for the first time. Congratulations, Amira. She's a picky eater, so that is especially impressive today. Let's go to Yachatz, which we'll find on the next page. And Yachatz, of course, is going to be the breaking of the middle matzah. For those of you who wonder why there are 3 sets of matzah, it is because, of course, there are 3 types of Jews according to this ancient belief: the priests, the lower priests, the Levites, the higher priests, the Kohanim, and of course, everybody else, the Israelites. How do you know you're a Kohen or a Levite? Your father told you you were one, and that is the only way to prove it. My dad told me I was a Levite, so I am holding him to that, but who knows? My great-great-great-great-grandfather Ed from the old country may have just one day wanted to be a Levite and decided to make himself one. It's impossible to know. But there we have it. We're going to break the middle matzah. And that's going to be called the afikoman, or as my wife likes to say, the afikoman. Afikoman. You turn on the camera again, it keeps going off. And this will be hidden and become the afikoman. And of course, we cannot conclude the Seder until we have found it. So my son here to the right of me, who's 7 months, he's going to be the one who's going to be searching for it. And since it will be placed right in front of him, there's a 60% chance we will have it at the end of our Seder. So let's all take this, and I'll put this over here. And my wife is going to take the afikoman, and we're going to continue as we take our next glass of wine or grape juice, have somebody else pour it. And yes, the afikoman has already been thrown on the floor. So Passover has officially begun. We are on page 5. And everyone, let's say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Amen. And everyone take a sip. Actually, we weren't supposed to drink there, but that's okay. Well, that's an extra one. We'll just do that as extra. Now, as we come to the bottom of page 5, we're going to invite another reader to come forth, as we're going to invite Jennifer to make sure a reader comes in. Page 5 at the bottom. Flo, would you go ahead and read that? Nobody, or Carrie, would you read that? Okay. Technical.
The Haggadah doesn't tell the story of Passover in a linear fashion. We don't hear of Moses being found by the daughter of Pharaoh. Actually, we don't hear much of Moses at all. Instead, we get an impressionistic collection of songs, images, and stories of both the Exodus and from Passover celebrations through the centuries. Flo, you want to finish?
Some say the minimizing the role of Moses keeps us focused on celebrations through the miracles of God performed for us. Others insist that we keep the focus on a role that every member of the community has in
Don't have
being part of positive change.
He does now.
Okay.
And from the philosopher Moshe Halbertal, he has urged us, avoid the temptation to fall into a kind of helpless fatalism in the face of such shattering events that we're feeling today. Liberate yourself from the absurd assumption that what happened yesterday is what will happen tomorrow. Internalize our human vulnerability and prepare to more effectively face life challenges by building communication and trust, and by more wisely and fairly allocating our limited resources as individuals and societies. Amen. And we're
Amen.
going to pause now as we're going to go to page 5.
4 questions.
And so I'll invite everybody to go to page, we just finished page 6, 4 questions. Now we are going to sing these 4 questions in Hebrew. You are free to mute yourselves from me singing it, but we hope it will not do any permanent damage to you. If it does, please see Jennifer. Manishtana halayla hazeh Miko halelot, Miko halelot, Ebeho halelot.
Anu
Amen.
Do-
Halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah. Halayla hazeh,
Kulo matzah, shebecho halelot, anu ochlim she'ar yirakot, she'ar yirakot, halayla hazeh, maror, maror, halayla hazeh, maror, shebecho halelot, ein anu matbilim, afilu pa'am echat, Halayla hazeh, shtei pe'amim. Halayla hazeh, shtei pe'amim. And the last one, shebecho halaylot anu ochlim beyoshvinu vein misubin, ben yoshvinu vein misubin. Halayla hazeh, kulanu misubin. Halayla hazeh, kulanu misubin. Now, my son is the youngest one here, so he asked already the 4 questions in his form of gibberish, and I'm going to ask him now in English since we've had him in Hebrew and gibberish so far. Why is this night different from all other nights? On other nights, we eat both leavened bread and matzah. Tonight, we eat only matzah. On all other nights, we eat all kinds of vegetables. Tonight, we eat bitter herbs. On other nights, we are expected to dip our vegetables 1 time. Tonight, we do it twice. On other nights, we eat either sitting normally or reclining. Tonight, we recline. And again, for the next part where it says answer the questions, we must say we were slaves, now or we are free. The reason, of course, we say we were slaves is because when we say we were slaves, it makes us more connected to those who are. It's akin to saying I had a knee operation, so I am more connected to people who had knee operations. I have asthma, so I'm more connected to people who have asthma. So when we say we were, not our ancestors, we're saying we are connected to all people who are suffering in the world today. And I think that's essential for us. So we're going to take a moment as we but we're going to look at some world traditions. Give me 1 second as we're seemingly still having some technical difficulties. 1 second.
Asking to unmute.
Oh, don't unmute. Yeah, keep it muted.
Yeah, but
Okay,
is it
perfect.
starting the video at the same time?
It was. All right, perfect. We're back now. Sorry, guys. We're trying on several different platforms to get this all set so we can have participants. And I also have lots of kids who are saying lots of interesting things that I'm sure everybody wants to hear. So let's go ahead and continue. In Afghanistan, the Jews take scallions and whip each other during the actual Seder. That is true. In Poland, each family used to pour water on their floors and hike up their coats and say the name of the towns in the region they would pass while making their crossing. Jews in India were very dedicated as they started to prepare for Passover the day after Hanukkah. So they took 180 days or so to prepare. In Gibraltar, they would actually mix dirt or dust of bricks into the haroset and then eat it. They were not picky eaters like me and my daughter. And in Ethiopia, Jews would break all of their dishes to symbolize a complete break from the past. That is pretty amazing. So those are just some traditions from other Jewish cultures. Some of you may have heard of them, some of you may not, but it's interesting to see that so many of us celebrate this in different ways. So now let us go to the 4 children. So if you take your Seder, your Haggadah, and you go to the bottom of that page, you will see where it says the 4 children. Now, obviously, it used to say the 4 sons, but we've switched that for now. We're going to read it a little differently. What does the wise child say? The wise child asked diligently, what are the testimonies and laws which God commanded you? It means to be fully engaged in the community, to know the limits of your understanding, to be able to search for the answers to which you do not know. At different points in our lives, we have been this child, inquisitive, caring, eager to learn and to understand, willing to ask for information we do not have, hopeful that an answer can be found. What does the wicked child say? The wicked child asks, what does this service mean to you and not to himself or herself? It means to stand apart from the community, to feel alienated and alone, depending only on yourself, to have little trust in the people around you, to help you answer questions. At different points in our lives, we have been this child, detached, suspicious, challenging. What does the simple child say? The simple child asks, what is this? It means to see only one layer of meaning, to ask the most basic of questions, to be too innocent or impatient to grasp complicated questions. At different points in our lives, we have been this child as well, simply curious and innocently unaware of the complexities around us. And lastly, what about the child who doesn't know how to ask a question? Help this child ask. It is because of what God did for me in taking me out of Egypt. This can be an indifferent child, no longer willing to engage. It can be the passive child who just shows up, or it can be the child whose spiritual life is based on faith, not rational arguments. The child who hears something deeper than words, who knows how to be silent and to listen to the surrounding silence. At different points in our lives, we've all been this child, unable to articulate, quiet, searching for the right words, listening in silence. And as we know, as adults, we are just like this at times too. At times we're ignorant and we don't know what question to ask. At times we're very wise because we're talking about a field we understand. And at times we can be wicked. But nobody, especially children, is wise all the time. Nobody, especially children, are wicked all the time, with the exception, of course, of my brothers. So let us continue. And for those of you who can't hear the screams, we've added them to the Seder in case you don't have children at your home, to make sure that you hear the beautiful sound of kids screaming at each other, playing with toys. We do everything we can for our community, and we know some of you are at home alone and don't have the children around, so that's why we've added this added ambiance. I had a long talk with my daughter, and I said, honey, around 6:30, would you please start screaming? Because we know if you do it, you'll get our son to do it as well. And she, of course, has been so gracious as to do that for us. So Amira, thank you again. You are the best. Now, I want to add one more thing. I was reading an article about adding a 5th child to the different children for today because of the issues we face, and that would be the motivated child. The motivated child knows the Passover story and understands the resilience of the Jewish people. This child is inspired by what is possible when we act with common purpose to overcome shared challenges. This child is eager to make an impact, to be a force for good, and to lead. Of his elders, the motivated child asks for support and resources and explains what motivates him or her to be a leader and urges those older than him or her to contribute. So especially at times like this, we also know there are people who are motivated to help those in need. And we know so many in our community are just like that. So let us go ahead and continue our Seder as we go to the next page. And on that page, actually at the bottom of this page, we'll see the telling of our story as we lift our glasses. So I'm going to invite everyone to lift their glasses. And I'm going to do it mine. Our story starts in ancient times with Abraham, who followed God's command and became the very first believer. After his descendants moved to Egypt, a new Pharaoh arose and enslaved the Israelites. But God heard the cries of the Israelites, and God brought us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, with great awe, miraculous signs and wonders. We take away just a little bit of our joy of wine by placing a drop of it in our plates as we recite the 10 plagues. And I have edited the story down a bit because we know we have limited time. And it is a tradition that goes back thousands of generations that we skip pages and edit the Haggadah. So what I'm going to do now is invite everyone to take their pinky, as is traditional, stick it in your wine or grape juice, and put it on the plate as we're going to say the plague in Hebrew and then English as well. Dam, blood. Sephardeia, frogs. Kinim, lice. Erov, beasts. Dever, cattle disease. Shrin, boils. Barad, hail. Arbe, locusts. Choshech, darkness. Makat bechorot, death of the firstborn. And we've been saying this for countless generations, and we continue to do this to honor the suffering of our ancestors. Oh, and before I forget, it is considered very bad luck traditionally to lick your finger. So don't lick your finger. Just make sure not to do that. It's considered a shana in some words. So just do not do that, please. Now, we also know that we are all suffering from a plague today, but throughout time, the plagues are not just to remind us of what is in the past, but to remind us what we're dealing with today. And so every year we find different plagues that the world is suffering from. We could have a number of them. This is just a list that I found that I thought was very well done. So would you say it with me together? Homelessness, hunger, inequality, greed, discrimination and hatred, silence and violence, environmental destruction, stigma of mental illness, ignoring refugees, and powerlessness. And I think we all know that we could add the coronavirus to it, and we could add a host of other things, as we all know that we're suffering today. But luckily, because of technology, we can still spend some time together. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Technology is really one of the great things that is helping us during these times when it comes to moments like this. So before we continue, let's take a moment for a quiz to see how everybody is doing in terms of knowledge. What does the word Seder mean? It means order. What are the only ingredients allowed in matzah? There's only two, and they are flour and water. What is the maximum number of minutes matzah may be baked? 18. What is the name of the sister of Moses who walked alongside him on the river as he rode in a basket? What is the name of the sister of Moses who walked alongside him in the river as he rode in a basket? I asked this at an event recently. The answer is Miriam is not the answer. The answer is we don't know because the name of this particular sister is not given. It could have been Miriam, but Moses could have had another sister. Disagreement among rabbis over whether the Seder required 4 or 5 cups of wine led to which custom? So there was a debate. Should we have 4 glasses or should we have 5 glasses? And it was decided of 4. And the 5th glass then became Elijah's cup, which we have right here. What is the oldest known Haggadah that we have in the world? How old is the oldest Haggadah? Is it 1,000 years, 800 years, or 600 years? The answer is the oldest Haggadah we have is the Sarajevo one. I'm sorry, it's by Sadia Gaon, and it is from the 10th century. So it's about 1,000 years old. Which major figure in the Passover story only gets one mention in a traditional Haggadah? And many of you may not realize this, but it is Moses. Moses is only mentioned one because they want to focus on the period and the people, not on the individual. What 20th century addition to the Passover table does Pottery Barn provide a place for its Seder? And that is the orange. And we'll talk about that in a moment. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the largest matzo ball in history weighed 488 pounds. That's matzo balls for you. That is my mother's matzo ball. And lastly, what are the 4 major motion pictures to be made about the story of Exodus? 2 of them I think many of us will get: The Prince of Egypt, the animated one in 1998, The 10 Commandments with Charleston Heston in 1956. However, Cecil B. DeMille in 1923 made actually the first one, a silent version of the 10 Commandments, and then another one 3 years later. And then in 2014 with Christian Bale, Exodus, Gods, and Kings. So those are the 4. So if you knew all of those answers, fabulous. If you needed to read this as I did to remember all of the answers, then pretty good. So we'll continue on as I invite everybody now to go back to their Haggadah, as we're going to come to Dayenu. Now, for those of you who are on Zoom call, we're going to invite you to sing just the Dayenu part with us because we can't be all together. So we're going to just do the Dayenu at the beginning, and I'm going to do the singing myself. Again, we apologize.
Bless you.
Ilu chotzi chotzianu, chotzianu, mi Mitzrayim, Dayenu. Together.
Dayenu, 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 Dayenu.
Ilu natalanu, ilu
Fine. Now see, I don't need Miss Ryan dying.
die,
Dayenu,
die, die,
Dayenu, 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 Dayenu.
Hero here.
Thank you, everybody. We purposely made sure that the technology put us all off by a second or 2 to make it feel more homely, like you're at home with everybody. Now,
That worked.
good job, guys. I'm going to read these and then ask everyone at home to say Dayenu. If God had taken us out of Egypt and not judged the Egyptians, Dayenu. If God had judged the Egyptians and not their idols, Dayenu. If God had judged their idols and not killed their firstborn, Dayenu. If God had killed their firstborn and not given us their wealth, Dayenu. If God had given us their wealth and not torn the sea in 2, Dayenu. If God had torn the sea in 2 and not led us through it on dry land, Dayenu. If God had led us through dry land and not drowned our enemies, Dayenu. If God had drowned our enemies and not sustained us with manna for 40 years, Dayenu. If God has fed us manna and had not given us Shabbat, Dayenu. If God had given us Shabbat and had not brought us to Mount Sinai, Dayenu. If God had brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah, Dayenu. If God had given us the Torah and had not brought us to the land of Israel, Dayenu. If God had brought us to the land of Israel and not built the Torah for us, Dayenu. And so again, Dayenu means it would have been enough, but as we know, we're so privileged to have been given so many blessings, even at times like this, when we're stuck at home without our families. We really do have so many blessings. So it's hard to appreciate, but I hope we're able to do it. So one of the things that is mandatory in the Seder is the explanation of the symbols. So if you go to the next page, you will see there are symbols there. I'm going to ask one of our readers to read this. So Carrie, would you read the Passover symbols? And if you can't, somebody else who's on the line read this Passover symbols. Herbert or Carrie?
Here we go. Okay, we have now
There we go.
told a story of Passover,
There you
but
go.
wait, we're not quite done. There are
Awesome.
still several symbols on our Seder plate we haven't explained. Rabbi Gamaliel would say that whoever didn't explain the shank bone, the matzah, and the maror, the bitter herbs, hasn't done Passover justice. Herbert, you want to read?
Thank you. The shank bone represents Pesach, the special lamb sacrifice made in the days of the temple for the Passover holiday. During the final plague, the Israelites were instructed to smear lamb's blood on the lintel of their homes so that the angel of death would pass over their homes. The sacrifice and now the shank bone are called Pesach, from the Passover word meaning, from the Hebrew word meaning to pass over.
Now, the matzah. Carrie, would you read that, please?
The matzah on our table reminds us that when the Israelites were finally freed from bondage, they rushed to leave Egypt before Pharaoh could change his mind. As they fled, the dough they made for bread did not have time to fully rise. So they ate flat matzah instead. And during Passover, we also eat matzah, and we refrain from eating anything that is leavened or can rise. The bitter herbs symbolize the bitterness of slavery, the life of hard labor the Israelites experienced.
And as we know, Passover is about the present, future as much as the past. And we know throughout history, people have been ostracized for a variety of reasons. And so we see so many modern additions added. The important thing is when you add a modern addition, make sure you add something that doesn't break the rules of Passover. What we have here is a list of different ones that have been added in different places for a variety of reasons. The orange obviously is one of the most famous ones, as is the cup of Miriam. But as you can see, people do it in a variety of ways. And as we say in our history and on the next page, in every generation, everyone is obligated to see themselves as though they personally left Egypt. Every one of us is obligated to understand that we have been ostracized at some point, and that everyone has, and that we should understand and help those in need. So I know we do that, so much of that in our community. So we're so appreciative of all that. Now we have added a couple children apparently to my house. So it sounds like there's 17 children, but there's really only 2 because of social distancing. I want to make sure you realize that it's not a bunch of them, that I didn't bet a bunch of kids over. Now, for our next section, custom or law. I've done this before and I love it. We know there are laws in Judaism and there are customs. A law is something that is required. A custom is something that's become a tradition. I'm going to ask you, is this a law or a custom, and see if you know. Candles. Is it a law or custom to light them? The answer is, it is a law. However, it is a custom to choose the candles you want. To sit or stand during Kiddush on Passover, is it a custom or a law to do one or the other? The answer is, it is a custom. It's completely up to you whether you sit. A lot of people will sit with, of course, the pillow on their back. Custom or law, we are supposed to drink 4 full glasses of wine. The answer is, it is a law. We are supposed to drink 4 full glasses, but even so, 50% is enough. And of course, 4 glasses of grape juice will count just the same. Is it a law to eat matzah on every day of Passover, or is it a custom? The answer, it is a custom. You're not required to eat matzah every day. You're only required to eat matzah on the first day and maybe the second, and only a small amount. What we're not allowed to do is eat bread the whole week. That's a law. Parsley, is it required or is a custom to eat parsley at the Seder? The answer is, it is a custom. That is right. It can be any type of leafy green. So it is a custom. Is it a custom or a law to eat horseradish? The answer, of course, is it is a custom, because the maror can be anything bitter, but horseradish, of course, has been very well known in our country, so it's used a lot. Is it a custom or a law for the youngest person to read the 4 questions? The answer is it is a custom. It is a law to read the 4 questions, but it's a custom for the kids. And lastly, is using a Haggadah a custom or a law? The book we're using now. The answer is it is a law to use some sort of book, some sort of Haggadah. Of course, there are a lot out there to choose from, as you've seen from the one I sent. In case you didn't get this one, you probably have your own. It's a law to use a book to do this. However, it is a custom as to which one you choose. So now I'm going to invite everyone to take the second glass of wine. If you have somebody there who can pour it for you, please let them. If you are alone and don't, we'll ceremoniously be there to pour it for you as we're together in spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. L'chaim. So let us continue. Now we are on the next page, but on the next page, we're going to pause before we go there. And we're going to go over another second piece of trivia. So as soon as my computer opens up again, which it just did, we can get to that. Again, technology is a wonderful thing, but sometimes it's needed to be used by masters, and I'm not one of them. What are some more interesting trivia about this holiday? On July 4th, 1776, Franklin, Jefferson, and Adams were given the task of designing the American seal, and Jefferson suggested the children of Israel in the wilderness led by a cloud by day and a pillar by night. Franklin's design included Moses standing on the shore and extending his hand over the sea. What is a gebrucht? What is a gebrucht? I'm going to let you look that up and find out for yourself. Is it the practice of eating hard-boiled eggs with salt water? Is it the Yiddish word for doorpost? The Yiddish word for frog? The Yiddish expression of anguish? It's spelled G-E-B-R-U-K-T in English, and a gebrucht, however you pronounce it, is a hard-boiled egg. At what time should you eat the afikomen, or as we know it is often called, the afikomen? The afikomen can be actually eaten at any time, but it should be eaten before midnight. And that's one of the rules. So basically you can eat it at any time, and our Seder will be about an hour, maybe just a little bit more. So we'll have it before then. So let's continue our wonderful Seder. I hope that was very informational for you. If you knew all that information, great. That's wonderful. I wish we could have other people join us and give information, but obviously with people out there and using YouTube, it is not possible. Now, we also have a second washing, which we do ceremoniously, but we also take a moment to mention that we want everyone to continue to wash. We're going to use ceremoniously, but here it is for me. If you don't have it, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. We praise you, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through obligations, commanding us to wash our hands. Amen. I did earlier, but we took that away, so I did that ceremoniously. Usually in the Reform War, we often skip this, but today I think it's ever essential that we do show that we are washing our hands. So now let's come to maror. As we know, it does not have to be horseradish. It's just often been chosen as horseradish because it's become so popular in America. It can be a fruit, a vegetable. It can be really, some people use greens. It can be really anything that you'd like that tastes bitter. So we're going to take the maror and we are going to say the prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. And you can eat it now separately, or you can wait and take a piece of matzah as we're going to do now. And we're going to say the prayer over matzah, which is on page 15, and page 13, maybe. I think my computer skipped over it. There we go. 1 second. There we go. Motzi matzah should have been there already. So let's say that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And then the second one is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. That should have been done first. I apologize. I noticed I made mistakes. So take maror and put it on the matzah. You can do it separately, or you can just also put the harosets on there and make what we call a Hillel sandwich. And that, of course, can be done anyway. So you take it. Now, I am very lucky because I have loquat, is that how you pronounce it?
Loquat and pecan.
Loquat and pecan harosets, which my wife made from trees that we always ask people to take them from when we walk every day on our walks.
Totally obtained
And we'll eat.
legally.
Now, traditionally, this is where we would have the meal, the Shulchan Aruch. However, obviously, we want to make sure everybody can have their meal afterwards. We said the prayer, we ate matzah, so that could be officially considered a meal itself. We're not going to say the prayer afterwards because we'll let you do that as well. I'm now going to get the afikomen. The afikomen is going to be handed to me. There we go. Thank you. There we go. I have the afikomen. That's the one. There we go. The hidden one, the afikomen. There it is. All right. Here it is. It has fallen on the floor, and so I will not eat it, but we do have it for dessert. And now we're going to say the blessing, of course, for Elijah the prophet. So I want to invite everybody to go to your door and open it in a safe way. As we know this year, it's especially important for Elijah to come as we read together the prayer for Elijah. Now, this isn't actually a prayer, it's more of a reading. So Elijah's door should be open. And then we don't invite him yet. We don't have the cup for Elijah. We say the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Now, Elijah will hopefully be coming in. As we see at the bottom, we now refill our own wine glasses one last time. And as we've opened the door, we also fill up the glass for Elijah. There's no prayer for it, but there's some nice readings. In the Bible, of course, excuse me, Elijah was a fierce defender of God to a disbelieving people. At the end, rather than dying, he was brought directly to God on a chariot. Some believe Elijah will return and herald the coming of an era of peace. We pray today that the prophet will come and not only visit us, but that he is, of course, immune to the coronavirus. And if he isn't, then we will require him to wear gloves, a mask, and stay 6 feet away from us. For those of you who want to sing with me, we'll sing just a little bit. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu HaTishbi,
Eliyahu, 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 Giladi,
Bimhera,
Yamenu, Yavo Aleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu,
Hanavi,
Eliyahu, HaTishbi,
Eliyahu,
Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Giladi. Good
And as
job,
we-
Carrie.
We're going to
Thanks.
take a moment. Beautifully done. Thanks for the assist. We're going to take a moment for a couple of really wonderful quotes about this time of the year. I've tried to pick one or two that would be really unique. One of them is from Sergeant Barney Ross. If you've not heard of Barney Ross, he was a great champion in boxing. I believe he was a welterweight champion, maybe a lightweight champion, one of the greatest Jewish boxers. And he was injured during 1943 on an assault on Guadalcanal, of course. And on US Army radio in 1944, this is what he said. There's going to be a Seder tonight for the Jewish boys in Guadalcanal. A few months ago, it didn't look that way. I couldn't have imagined that in a few months, I'd be standing here before a microphone talking about Passover, or that Guadalcanal would be completely in American hands with Jewish men among the troops holding the Seder out in the open to celebrate both our victory on Guadalcanal and the victory of the children of Israel who fought for freedom. And again, that's from Barney Ross. And from the former chief rabbi of England, Jonathan Sacks, message of Passover remains as powerful as ever. Freedom is won not on the battlefield, but in the classroom and the home. Teach your children the history of freedom if you want them never to lose it. And so I'll invite us now to go back to our Haggadah as we come to the conclusion. Of course, we take the fourth glass and we'll say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. L'chaim. We go to the last page. And before we do Nirtzach, one more quote that I thought was really beautiful. It comes from Anonymous. Your talent is God's gift to you. How you use it is your gift to God. May all of us use the gifts we've been giving to the benefit of society, to the benefit of God. At times like these, when we struggle because we are not surrounded by friends and family in actuality, may we continue to remember that in spirit we always are, that we're connected far beyond the bounds of the physical limitations we have here on earth. We're all connected to each other spiritually. And through the next weeks, I encourage all of us to maintain contact with each other through any ways possible, through technology, of course, Zoom, phone calls, texts, seeing people outside from a distance. Maintain those ties that bind us. And quite frankly, we probably have a little bit more time to talk with our friends and family than we ever had before. I personally find myself calling my family around the country and spending an hour, sometimes even more, talking with them. Whereas before we were always in a rush to get to the next thing. So it's quite a treat in some ways, although we know we wish we didn't have it this way. So to conclude, I know we all want one more thing from this Passover. One more thing to remember the plagues that our ancestors had to overcome. And I was thinking to myself, what is the means by which I could send out the feeling of plagues to all of you when we can't talk, we're not in the same room together? So it was obvious. I'm going to sing a song. So to conclude, I will sing a song written by two of our members who now live in Tampa, Jonathan Coker and Adam Johnson, for one of our Passover, actually for our Purim Spiel, which was moved to Passover. It is Passover Connection. It is from the tune of Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog. Why are there so many songs about Santa, or what's on the Christmas tree? When you are Jewish, you can feel oh so bluish, like does anyone remember me? So I'm in search of some holiday spirit, maybe a menorah, a Seder played on TV. Someday we'll find it, Passover Connection, my rabbi, my bubby, and me. Who said that every kid has to love Santa? Me, I prefer matzah balls. Speaking of good food, did I mention the maror, lettuce, and gefilte fish? What's so amazing that keeps us decorating stars of David everywhere? Someday we'll find it, Passover Connection, my rabbi, my bubby, and me. All of us drinking 4 cups, we're lucky because of the Seder. When you feel lonely, come light candles at my house. We like to have company unusual years because being Jewish means being together. It's nice to say, hey, you're like me. When you drink grape juice or dip in your finger, I hope that you're filled with glee. Someday we'll find it, Passover connection, my rabbi, my bubby, and me. May all of us find that Passover connection this year, even though we may not be in the same room with our loved ones. May we come to understand that we are connected no matter where we are, no matter who we're sitting next to the larger Jewish world. So from my family who are going to come over here, we're going to say goodbye. We're going to see if Amira want to come over here and say goodbye to everybody. Come over here, Amira. So my wife, my daughter, and I. Come on over here, Amira. No, we didn't get her. We got one of them. My daughter, my wife, and my son. April, why don't you come over here? Okay. Okay, bye everybody.
Happy Passover, everybody.
Over. Have a wonderful
Happy
safe.
Passover.
And if there's anything you do need from us,
Unmute
please let
yourself.
us know. We're here for you. And again, thank you to Jennifer for organizing this on YouTube and Zoom. We're learning all these new things. And thank you to Carrie and Herbert and Flo for being our readers. Again, Hag Sameach, and we look forward to seeing you in person soon. But until
Amen.
then, see you on the internet or on phone calls. Shabbat Shalom. Sorry, it's not Shabbat.
No,
Passover. Chag Sameach, everyone.
Thanks, Mayor.
happy Passover.
Happy Passover.
Stay well.
You
Stay
too.
well. Stay safe.
Yes, absolutely.